support all the innocent people who have been wrongly accused, and to support Darlie Routier, who is 100% innocent.
Well, I think it says that there was no intruder, period.
It's a lie, and you know it.
Do I have to interview in front of this trailer trash over here?
Hey, don't even start.
He's running for a new position, probably, what is it, district attorney maybe?
Well, I can appreciate family members, supporting members of their family. I mean, if your family won't support you, who will? I just don't appreciate the way they've gone about it.
It's sort of understandable when victims of families say things, in this kind of circumstance, but I would have thought that Mr. Kinney would have had the good sense to refrain from commenting.
She went over there and then she came back, and then she started down with soaking wet. They have the gown. It's got blood saturated all over it. Leaned on the sink, wet the towels. That's why there's just...
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Devin. Happy birthday to you.
Love you, Devin and Damon.
So you're going to eat that. Everybody likes kids.
With friends and family looking on, Darren Routier enjoys a bittersweet moment during son Drake's first birthday party. But while father and son enjoy the afternoon opening presents, all thoughts are hundreds of miles away, where Drake's mother, Darlie, sits in a Kerrville jail cell awaiting trial for allegedly killing the boy's two older brothers.
Darlie has every range of emotion you can think of, all the way from the bottom to the top.
Darren's Aunt Sandy Aiken says the entire family is standing behind Darlie, and they all say she is innocent. Kerrville, they maintain, will be the time of reckoning.
And that is that Darlie did not do this, and we can point the finger to the person that did.
But at this time, Dallas County prosecutors maintain that it was Darlie Routier who stabbed to death her 5- and 6-year-old sons, Damon and Devin, inside the family's Rowlett home on June 6th. Sister-in-law Dana Routier says the family plans to fight those charges to the bitter end.
We're just a strong family, and we love Darlie, and we love the boys, and we always will. And if, her support system will never break. We're all completely 100% behind her, and this whole thing is just ridiculous.
The family is upset that prosecutors plan to use against Routier a videotape shot by Texas News 5. It shows Routier joyfully celebrating her son's birthdays only a few days after their deaths. Aiken says it was simply Darlie's way of helping the neighborhood kids get over the tragedy.
Darlie and Darren felt like this is something that, for the emotional support for the children in the neighborhood that love these kids, that were in and out of their house constantly, a party had to be held so these children could adjust.
Those involved on both sides of the Darlie Routier case say it's like an onion, turning up layer after layer of questions. The latest question stems from blood evidence on the nightshirt Routier wore when her sons were killed and she was wounded. Sources say on the back of that shirt are several impressions of a bloody knife, almost like a silhouette. One appears to show the murder weapon was swiped across the shirt. Tests show the blood is Darlie's. The question prosecutors will most likely ask is, why would the killer stab Routier, then wipe the knife off on her shirt? The shirt is part of the evidence that's been loaded and will be sent to Kerrville this week. Among witnesses expected to head down are family friends who will testify about Routier's alleged depressions just before the stabbing deaths of Damon and Devin. Prosecutors are also expected to show jurors the Texas News 5 interview with Darlie and Darren Routier at their son's gravesite, celebrating what would have been Devin's 7th birthday. The Routiers were criticized by many for the gravesite party. The family says what no one saw was the solemn prayer service before. Texas News 5 has learned that Rowlett police had the family under taped surveillance for hours that day, and part of that tape will show the prayer service with only the family present. Routier's family says she's doing well at this point and that she is pushing her attorneys to allow her to take the stand in her own defense. No word yet on whether they will allow her to do that. Joe Munoz, Texas News 5. In a tiny town like Kerrville, when someone thinks you haven't done what's right, they'll let you know. So, when more than half of the requested potential jurors in the capital murder trial of Darlie Routier did not show up in court, folks around here let loose.
They're just not showing any responsibility. I guess we're getting to the point where we don't really care anymore.
But some people did care. 165 Kerr County residents will begin the long process of voir dire, where each person is individually interviewed by both the defense and the prosecution. When potential jurors enter this courthouse next Monday, they'll be asked questions ranging from whether or not they have a criminal past to what their thoughts are on the death penalty. They will also be asked what they believe burden of proof is. Attorneys will want to know what potential jurors think proof beyond a reasonable doubt is, and they'll also be asked about their life experiences. 7 people a day will be interviewed to create the final jury and the alternates.
We'll get a fair jury in Kerrville. Kerrville is a very good community, and we'll have good, intelligent jurors, and we'll get a good fair trial here.
It's going to be a difficult case, certainly because of the circumstances of the situation, but feel very confident, and I think as we get along further in the process with picking the jury, I think that we'll see that we have a very good jury panel down here in Kerrville, and I'm very confident here.
If some juror candidates consider not showing up next week, another Kerr County native has some words for them.
Totally un-American. That's not what we're based on in America.
In Kerrville, Joe Munoz, Texas News 5.
Happy birthday to you.
For some, this may seem a strange thing to do in an odd place and time.
Happy birthday, dear Devin.
Singing happy birthday in a cemetery to a son who was brutally stabbed to death just over a week ago.
Love you, Devin and Damon.
But Darlie and Darren Routier say this is appropriate for them and their family. Helium balloons instead of headstones to remember Devin, who would have turned 7 today.
And he would take the liquid paper and he was painting on his cards, just change them up from what they were before.
He and his 5-year-old brother Damon were stabbed to death, their mother wounded by someone she describes as a white man wearing dark clothes. She was downstairs with the boys, Darren in an upstairs bedroom with infant son Drake. They were unharmed. The young mother says she feels horrible she did not wake up immediately when her children were attacked first.
All I was thinking about was trying to save the babies. I mean, Darren and I tried to save the babies, but it was too late and the babies were gone. But we tried, and we have to live with that forever.
Rowlett police are mum about the motive, but do say it was not burglary because nothing was taken. They also say this was not random.
Now we know that this is a sick individual that took absolutely nothing from our house, but took the two most important things that were important to us.
The family says they not only battle grief now, they battle rumors that they were somehow involved in this violent crime.
Gossip is the biggest evil in the world, and unfortunately there's nothing you can do to stop it, and we're not going to make an issue out of this.
As for who
you can do to stop it, and
rumors that they were somehow involved in this violent crime.
Gossip is the biggest evil in the world, and unfortunately there's nothing you can do to stop it, and we're not going to make an issue out of this.
As for who could so easily snuff the life of two beautiful innocents, the Routiers say the murderer can only be described one way.
Well, it's an animal that goes after a weak sheep that is asleep, is completely lifeless, and attacks the weakest person in the room first. Is completely lifeless.
Murderer can only be described one way.
Well, it's an animal. That goes after a weak sheep that is asleep. After a weak sheep that is asleep, is completely lifeless, and attacks the weakest person in the room first to be able to get off on whatever he was thinking he was going to accomplish.
Some of the puncture or holes in her nightgown, in the expert's opinion, were probably made by holding the cloth away from the body and puncture holes being made. I submit that this is some sort of testing to see how hard you have to puncture yourself or how difficult it is to cut through your own clothing.
They've got to prove things beyond a reasonable doubt, not what could have been or what might have been. They got to prove what was. And
What it indicates is that there was a conscious, deliberate effort to move this vacuum cleaner in the kitchen after the blood was deposited on the floor. And that's contradictory. It's inconsistent with the story that this defendant told to police officers and the paramedics and other personnel right after this incident.
That's one conclusion that you can draw. And again, I'm not going to comment on what our position is right now. You'll know what it is tomorrow. It'll be very clear. But, I don't want to alert them as to where we're going on this. But he didn't say anything that surprised me.
My whole world was shattered June the 6th, and it's been a nightmare ever since. I can't tell you how many days I've just stayed in bed crying over the things that they've said about Darlie that I know is absolutely not true.
This trip to the Texas Hill Country in Kerrville is not one the Routier family looks forward to preparing for. 27-year-old Darlie Routier goes on trial for her life, accused of violently taking the lives of her sons, 6-year-old Devin and 5-year-old Damon. The family remembers the boys with T-shirts emblazoned with their pictures on one side. On the other, their statement in support of Darlie, a Bible verse, "Save me, O Lord, from lying lips and deceitful tongues." They maintain Darlie was a caring mother who could never harm her kids, a woman whose life revolved around the boys. Family members say she desperately mourns the loss of her sons. But prosecutors say the evidence in these boxes will paint a different picture. Authorities say they will show her story of a white man in a baseball cap coming into her home, killing her boys, stabbing her, and not harming her husband or infant son is not what really happened. They allege Routier killed her boys, then stabbed herself. Prosecutors are expected to compare the deep wounds the boys suffered, up to 5 inches deep, with the wound on Routier's throat, about 3/4 of an inch deep. Sources also say family friends are expected to testify about her alleged depression before the murders. But sources close to the investigation admit it will be a tough job with circumstantial evidence to convince a Kerr County jury that one June night, a young mother snapped and stole her children's lives. In Kerrville, Joe Munoz, Texas News 5.